Assembly instructions for this 3D trophy cup. After you've got all your pieces cut from cardstock, gather them together, and I like to separate each of the tiers. I think it's a little easier. So for the bottom tier, you have 3 pieces. You've got the base, the top, and the bottom. And the same thing for the second tier. You'll have the base, the top, and the bottom. For the top tier, you only have a base and a bottom. Then you have your pillars, 2 large and 4 small. Then you have the pieces to the trophy cup itself. You'll have 4 handles, the trophy cup itself and the stem. We'll start with the bottom tier first. So you want to take the base and fold along all the score lines so that you have nice clean edges, but don't add any adhesive or glue yet. And if you're using foil or metallic craft board, I suggest using red line tape for this project. So for the bottom tier, we're going to need the 2 large pillars. Fold along all the score lines again. As you're folding, you're going to curve it into a tube and then add your adhesive along the long side tab, and you're going to glue that to the inside. I prefer to use Bearly Art liquid adhesive for cardstock. It's permanent and it holds really well. This is a good time if you have a bone folder to use it, to be able to smooth out the adhesive in the middle of that tube that's hard to reach. I don't have one, so I just use my Cricut tweezers. All right, so now we need to insert the pillars into the bottom base. You can do this one at a time. It's a little tricky if you try to do both, but it works either way. You just want to put each pillar through both the holes in the top and the bottom. After you've got each of your pillars through the base, in the top and the bottom, we need to glue it in place. I used red line tape for this portion and just cut little pieces for each tab. I found the easiest way to do this and keep it aligned is to put the red line tape on, spread all the tabs, and then turn the whole thing over and slide it down, then press in place. After you've got your pillars secured to the bottom, you need to close up the bottom tier base. Again, I chose to use red line tape for this. It's a metallic cardstock, so liquid adhesive is notorious for not sticking to that. So just add a little line of red line tape on all 3 of the side tabs of the bottom tier. So you want to bring the sides of the base down and glue the tabs in place on the bottom. And you don't glue them to the inside, you glue them to the outside. You'll bring the remaining side of the base closed and glue it all in place. Now you have a rectangle covering for that bottom. So again, use red line tape on all 4 sides and just glue in place. And that piece will cover the pillar portion of the bottom. So you have a nice clean look. Now we need to add the top piece for our bottom tier and we'll be done with it. Again, use red line tape and add a little piece of tape to each of the tabs on the top of the pillars. Take that top piece of the bottom tier and flip it upside down so pretty side is down and slide both pillars through. Again, take the backing off of your red line tape, spread the tabs, and then flip everything over upside down and push down in place. Now you can set that piece aside, and we're going to start on the middle tier. You're going to follow all the same steps as we did for the bottom tier. So fold along all your score lines on the base, fold along all your score lines on the pillars, and curve them into a tube and glue in place. After you've got them glued, you want to place all 4 pillars through the top and the bottom holes in the middle tier base, just like we did with the bottom base. It can be a little bit trickier working with 4 at a time, but just take your time, and once you get them all through, you're going to add red line tape to all of the tabs. I actually added my red line tape on this portion to both ends of all 4 of the pillars before putting them through. It was just quicker. You'll spread out all the tabs again like we did before, flip the middle tier upside down, and press to secure them. After you've got the pillars in place, glued nicely, we're going to follow the same steps again for closing up the base on the middle tier. The middle tier also has a rectangle covering to go over it. So again, use your red line tape and add that backing to the middle tier. And then we need to add another set of red line tape to the bottom of that so that we can adhere the middle tier on top of the bottom tier. And once we have that portion finished, and then we need to add the top piece to the middle tier. So again, you want to flip it to where pretty side is down, and then just guide all 4 pillars through the 4 holes. You want to pay attention to where it's aligned, because if you have it the wrong way, it won't go through. Then again, you're going to just spread the tabs and glue in place. And now we'll start on the trophy cup. We'll start by folding down on all the score lines. Now both the stem and the cup itself has quite a few score lines, so just take your time and fold them all down. We need to add the handles in. There is 4 total, so you'll glue 2 back to back to make them a little sturdier. And there's 4 slits in the trophy cup. So just insert the handle on each side, and then on the inside of the cup, glue the tabs in place. This is probably the trickiest portion to assemble of the whole thing. So for the trophy cup, you want to start on the side without the long tab. You're going to bring the tab on the bottom of the first lower section of the cup to the side of the next section and glue it in place. Continue the same fashion around the entire bottom of the cup. Now, once you get to the long tab, you're going to tuck it and glue it onto the inside of the cup on the opposite edge. And there's 2 tabs for that portion that need to be glued. And then make sure that you hold this part in place until it's completely adhered. You don't want the trophy to come apart on you. For the next portion is the stem. You're going to fold along all the score lines, and there's quite a few on this one piece. So you want to bring the tab on the side of one stem section to the side of the next section and glue it in place. Continue the same fashion around the rest of the stem, and then once you get to the end, tuck the small tab on the lower part inside and glue it in place. Now add the stem into the bottom of the top tier. Then spread the tabs and glue in place. Now to assemble the top tier, the box, we're going to use the same steps we did for the bottom and the middle. Add red line tape to all three tabs, and then bring them down and close together. Now insert the top of the stem into the bottom of the cup. You're going to spread the tabs on the inside and glue them in place. I found that the foam squares actually work a lot better than the liquid adhesive for this portion, so I use those. We're almost done. After that, we need to adhere the trophy cup to the top tier base, and then we need to adhere the top tier base on top of the middle tier base. Once that is done, it's all finished.